You open TikTok today, maybe for a minute, maybe just to check one thing. And then, somewhere between a cooking video and a dog clip and something that made you laugh, an hour disappeared. You didn't choose to stay. You didn't decide to keep scrolling. You just did. And here is the uncomfortable truth behind that feeling. It was not an accident. It was not a coincidence. It was engineered, designed, tested, and it worked on you exactly the way it was supposed to. This is the real story of TikTok, not the dances, not the trends, the manipulation you never knew was happening. TikTok launched internationally in 2018 after its Chinese parent company, ByteDance, merged it with a smaller app called Musical.ly. The timing was perfect. Smartphones were everywhere, attention spans were shrinking, and TikTok had something that no other platform had ever built before, an algorithm so precise, so fast, and so personal that it could figure out exactly what you wanted to watch before you even knew yourself. The growth was unlike anything the tech world had ever seen. By 2020, TikTok had surpassed 2 billion downloads globally. By early 2026, it had nearly 1.9 billion monthly active users worldwide. In the United States alone, 170 million people use it every month. That is more than half the entire population of the country. To put that in perspective, TikTok reached 1 billion users faster than Facebook, faster than Instagram, faster than YouTube. In October 2024, something unusual happened in a courthouse in Kentucky. Lawyers in a lawsuit against ByteDance filed documents that were supposed to be kept secret. When someone copied and pasted the text, the hidden words became readable. What they revealed were 30 pages of internal ByteDance research, documents the company never intended the public to see. And those documents contained a number, a very specific number, 260 videos. That is the exact threshold ByteDance's own researchers identified for habit formation on TikTok. Because TikTok videos can be as short as 8 seconds, their own internal studies concluded that in under 35 minutes of use, an average user is likely to become addicted to the platform. 35 minutes, less time than it takes to watch a film. ByteDance knew this. The documents showed they knew, and they built the platform anyway. But it goes further than that. The same internal documents showed that ByteDance's own research linked compulsive TikTok use to a specific list of mental health consequences: loss of analytical thinking skills, impaired memory formation, reduced ability to think in context, shallower conversations, less empathy, increased anxiety. Their own scientists documented all of this, and then the company buried the research. Here is how the algorithm actually works. Every time you open TikTok, the app begins collecting data immediately. Not just what you watch, but how long you watch it, where you pause, where you rewind, where you skip, what you watch after that, your exact location, the device you are using, your daily patterns. Every hesitation teaches the algorithm something about your weaknesses. Every scroll tells it what keeps you there. The platform is not showing you what you like. It is showing you what you cannot stop watching. Those two things are not always the same. Now, ByteDance introduced a screen time limit tool, a 60-minute daily limit designed to address public criticism about addiction. Parents were relieved, but the leaked documents told a different story. ByteDance's own internal assessment of the screen time tool described it as having negligible impact. They knew the safety feature did not work. They promoted it publicly as evidence of responsibility anyway. Users open TikTok an average of 19 times per day. They spend nearly 11 minutes each session. The most engaged users spend over 4 hours daily, and TikTok knew exactly why, because they designed it that way. In 2022, investigative reporters at BuzzFeed News published a story that caused immediate alarm in Washington. They had obtained recordings from internal TikTok meetings. In those recordings, TikTok engineers and executives could be heard discussing the fact that U.S. user data was being repeatedly accessed by employees in China. One statement from a TikTok engineer in those recordings was particularly striking. They referred to a person inside ByteDance in China who had access to everything, every piece of U.S. user data. TikTok denied it was a security problem. Then ByteDance launched an internal investigation. The investigation confirmed the access had happened. ByteDance fired 4 employees, including 2 based in China, who had improperly accessed the data of U.S. journalists, including reporters from BuzzFeed and the Financial Times who had written critical stories about the company. This matters for a specific legal reason. Under Chinese law, any company operating within China's jurisdiction is required to cooperate with Chinese government intelligence requests. If the government asks for data, the company must provide it. This is not a theory. It is written into Chinese law. ByteDance is a Chinese company. Its core operations, its engineers, and its algorithm are all located in China. The US government concluded that this meant any data TikTok collected on American users could, in theory, be accessed by the Chinese government. 170 million Americans, their viewing habits, their locations, their daily patterns, their private messages, their faces. In January 2025, the United States Supreme Court voted unanimously to uphold a law requiring ByteDance to sell TikTok or face a ban. The justices noted that TikTok's parent company was, by law, subject to performing intelligence work for the Chinese government. Chief Justice Roberts stated plainly that TikTok's Chinese ownership created a national security risk, unlike any other social media platform operating in the United States. TikTok went dark for millions of American users on January 19, 2025. Then the incoming Trump administration signaled it would delay enforcement. The app came back. The legal situation remains unresolved, and ByteDance has still not sold. Meanwhile, more than 30 countries have banned TikTok on government devices, including the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, Australia, and most of the European Union. Governments that trust TikTok with their own employees' phones? Zero. In the spring of 2019, something strange was happening on TikTok. Hong Kong was in the middle of some of the largest pro-democracy protests in its history. Millions of people were on the streets. Every other social media platform was flooded with footage and discussion from the protests. But on TikTok, almost nothing. Researchers and journalists began investigating. They found that the hashtag Hong Kong on TikTok was overwhelmingly filled with food videos, travel clips, and lifestyle content. The protests that were dominating global news were essentially invisible on the platform. TikTok denied suppressing the content. They blamed it on the app being relatively new and less popular in Hong Kong at the time. But this was not the only case. Topics consistently underrepresented on TikTok compared to other platforms include the 1989 Tiananmen Square massacre, Tibetan independence, the treatment of Uyghur Muslims in China, and the political status of Taiwan. These are, without exception, topics that the Chinese government considers sensitive and actively censors on its own domestic internet. In 2024, researchers at the Network Contagion Research Institute at Rutgers University published findings that described what they called covert content manipulation on TikTok, evidence that the platform systematically suppressed content critical of China while amplifying content that aligned with Chinese government positions. The same year, the Wall Street Journal reported that TikTok's algorithm was pushing highly polarized content about the conflict in Gaza to users, content where the vast majority of videos reflected extreme positions on one side of the debate. In November 2024, Romania's government alleged that TikTok had been used to interfere in the country's presidential election, targeting young voters with coordinated content designed to shift political opinion. The Romanian Telecommunications Authority called for the platform to be suspended. Here is the detail that makes all of this most interesting. TikTok itself is banned in China. ByteDance offers a completely separate app for Chinese users called Douyin. Douyin complies fully with Chinese government censorship rules, blocking political dissent, filtering sensitive topics, promoting government-approved content. It is a completely different product for a completely different purpose. ByteDance built two apps, one for China, censored, one for the rest of the world, addictive.